All right. So today is the 11-month update on the acoustic neuroma surgery and outcome. So if you're looking this video up or it pops up anywhere for you, you probably know what an acoustic neuroma is. You probably have one or your doctor thinks you might have one. Because if you don't have one, I can only assume that maybe a loved one has one. If you're in medicine, you probably have better resources, so this probably isn't you. I've looked up a lot of people on YouTube and online that have gone through what I did. Some are worse off than I am, and some are a lot better off. So the backstory on everything is I've had right side tinnitus for years. The first time I brought it up is I think it had become an issue around 2013 or 2014. I brought it up when I was in the National Guard. And I was field artillery, so I just assumed I had cannon ear, which is pretty common. You got a big gun going off next to your head, you're going to have hearing damage. So I've had tinnitus. I'm going to call it tinnitus. I prefer that one. Since then, I brought it up and they said they weren't going to do anything for me. I've been dealing with it for years, just part of it. And back around 2020, 2021, I noticed it was getting worse. 2021, I couldn't hear anyone that was a passenger in the car when I was driving. And I did jujitsu pretty frequently around that time, and I was like a really big fan of inversion moves, like flipping upside down on your back, going over your shoulders, stuff that requires balance and not getting dizzy easily. So I also had noticed in that time that my balance was getting worse. And I had just recently turned 30, 31. And it was just like, oh, I'm over 30 now. My body's falling apart. Like, this is great. This is cool. But I started getting fits of vertigo. Like I would be doing jujitsu or something, and I'd do like a quick spin move or something, and I'd get motion sick. My head would be spinning for a good 30 seconds. And it wasn't until really just out of the blue event. I went to Oktoberfest with my brother, and my sister-in-law's best friend's cousin noticed there was something off about my hearing, and she worked for the VA. And she mentioned that I should put in to get checked out by the VA with an audiologist, which is I did. Went in, did the hearing test. Very extreme asymmetry in hearing loss on my right side. And he was like, yeah, you probably have an acoustic neuroma. You need to get with your primary care and go get an MRI done, which is what I did. And the mass, when it was detected, was about 4 centimeters by 3.1 centimeters and by 2.1 centimeters. And that was early last year when I found out about all of this. I ended up getting referred down to Duke. Dr. Zomorodi Uh, excellent, excellent surgeon, excellent hospital. Would 10 out of 10 recommend going there if it's an option. I don't recommend getting an acoustic neuroma. This is sucked pretty bad. So on the 23rd of July last year, I went in for what was supposed to be a 6-hour surgery. It ended up going to almost 11 hours. Horrible experience. When I came out of surgery, my face worked, and I actually had some hearing. I still had directional hearing, which I want to take as a win. And I got released after 2 nights. I will say the food there was pretty good too. But I got released after 2 nights, went home. And about 3 or 4 days later is when the facial paralysis and complete hearing loss happened. And from what I've discussed, like some speculation, like it might have been inflammation that just choked out the nerves, might have been like a micro stroke. More testing will be needed to determine what happened there. And that was pretty bad. At first, like I had to keep my eye tape shut. I had to wear like a moisture guard eye patch. I didn't really start recovering on that really until about November. And it has since plateaued. I went from probably a House Brackman 5 or 6, and I'm down to a 3, which is where I've been at since December, January. And I was told that's probably where it's going to be. And I should probably like look into getting Botox or something. Read it. I'm completely deaf on my right side now, which has been one of the worst parts of all of this. There's a difference between like having like 50 or 60% hearing loss and having complete absolute hearing loss. It sucks. There's no way to sugarcoat it. It sucks. Still recovering. I'm getting back into exercising. Before all this, like I said, I was really big into jujitsu and like Muay Thai and stuff, weightlifting. Like shortly before the surgery, I think I hit a new PR at like 360 something for deadlift. I think I was a 3 rep for bench was like 250. I'm happy with that. Probably going to be a while before I can get back to that. If I ever do, they told me I should probably avoid lifting heavy weights like I used to. I went in for an MRI in December and follow-up appointment with surgeon there in February. And there was no regrowth of the tumor. They did have to leave a 3 millimeter chunk of it on because it was on my facial nerve. And the mass that they did remove ended up being 4.3 centimeters by 3.1 by 2.1 centimeters. And it was attached to my brainstem. That's what they told me after surgery. Some of the other things that have happened, synkinesis. I've got the lines on my face. I am physically incapable of crying. Like, it doesn't matter how funny something is or how sad I am. I cannot cry. I get crocodile tears when I eat, which is kind of annoying because I like spicy food. Anytime the weather changes, there's a huge swing in like barometric pressure or anything, I get these horrible headaches, like really bad migraines. And even though I'm completely deaf on this side, I have like this weird phantom screaming sensation every now and then. It'll jerk me awake if I'm lying down, or I'll startle really easy for no reason. It's like there's something screaming in my ear in like a pseudo language, which, from my understanding, is like some phantom limb thing where your brain suddenly just had part of its like sensory body cut off, and it's trying to make sense of all of that. That hasn't been fun. It was really bad dealing with like eating and drinking there for a while. Food would fall out of my mouth, and that got frustrating. Speaking is difficult. I've kind of had an identity fracture around the facial paralysis and my difficulty speaking. That's been one of the worst parts of this. I usually wear a leather and Kydex eye patch over this eye when I'm outside or moving between like different lightings and rooms, because I am like very photosensitive now in this eye. Even though moisture retention isn't that big of a problem, I can blink enough, but I have to remember to blink if I'm tired or driving or anything. So I can still see out of this eye. A lot of you that know me from like cybersecurity conferences and stuff, like I still have my eye. I can see through the eye patch. The issue is the light. But that's been one of the more difficult things to deal with. This side of my head, like my entire scalp, is still numb. The scar actually healed really well. You can barely see the incision point where they went in. I had a right-retrosigmoid approach. I know some people have like the translab where they peel it back and go in, but they did the right-retrosigmoid because they're trying to preserve some of my hearing. They didn't. I got laid off in January, so I don't have insurance, but I was told that one of my options, I might be eligible for a cochlear implant or a bone attached hearing assistance, which is like a microphone that goes on your head, and it kind of tricks your brain into directional hearing from the deaf side, and you can kind of have a little bit of directional hearing like through your good ear. I think it goes through your mastoid bone. So there are options for that. So that's where I'm at, and it's basically where I've been at for like the past 6 months with this whole surgery thing. And the reason I decided to do the update now and not next month is because I'm probably going to be busy that week, and nothing is going to change between now and then. I'm basically where I'm at in my recovery as far as all this goes. I pretty much exist in a state of chronic discomfort because of all this. I get really tired easily. I still don't feel like me. Like I look in the mirror, there's just enough off about my face to throw me off. My voice, even though other people say they can't tell a difference, I can. And just the pressure headaches from the weather, the scalp being off. My balance has gotten better than where it was pre-surgery, so that's a good thing, but it's still kind of wonky. And yeah, it's just this kind of a weird disassociative state. And like I said, I'm not trying to sound like I'm ungrateful or I'm that bad off. I'm rolling with it. Like I said, I've read about people's accounts of post surgery from this that are way worse than what I'm going through. So I am grateful. I'm grateful for Dr. Zomorodi and his team at Duke. Again, if you're looking up and you see this video because you have an acoustic neuroma, I would highly look into Duke. I initially spoke with Dr. Patel, but acoustic neuromas weren't his specialty. He said he could have done the surgery, but it would have been a disservice to me if his colleague didn't do it. So, yeah, dealing with Duke was actually really easy, good experience for having your head opened up. But yeah, that's just been my ear post-op. I figured I'd put that out there to try to help people the way some of the people that came before me through this that I read and watched their accounts and recollections. Yeah, this here is kind of like the big thing that bothers me. So some days the facial paralysis and everything isn't that bad. Like if 10 were normal, I'd be like a 7 or an 8. But if I'm tired, irritated, stressed out, sleep deprived, or if the lights are bright, it gets worse. The other thing that I've been dealing with is loud noises still cause like a discomfort or pressure on this ear, even though I can't hear anything. And I don't know, I guess like sensory overstimulation. Like I'll go into a restaurant with like a bunch of background noise, the music, all the conversations going on, and it will absolutely exhaust me. So I used to like going to music festivals, concerts, stuff like that. Going to restaurants, I don't really like doing that anymore because I can't hear anything. And if it's too loud, like I'm actually just I'm uncomfortable. So that's that. So hopefully, if you're watching this and you've got an acoustic neuroma, I wish you the best. One of the things that's really helped me with my recovery has been DDP yoga. I've been doing that for rehab, like trying to get my balance back, staying flexible, trying to stay moving. And I was just getting back into the point where I was lifting weights again, but I broke my hand over Memorial Day weekend. So that's a completely unrelated story. But yeah, DDP yoga, that was one of the things I did. Walking. I started trying to walk as quickly as I could after surgery. probably 2 weeks post-op is when I started like walking more and more each day. Um, it was a 2 or 3 weeks before I could start driving again. Um, but yeah, that's just another aside. If anyone has any questions, you can feel free to message me on here. Um, the eye patch that I got, just hook up leather Kydex eye patch on Amazon. It's like $50. And it was better than buying the moisture barriers, which are like $15, and they do wear out after about 3 weeks. But yeah, if you got an acoustic neuroma, um, you'll get through it. It's gonna suck, but you'll get through it. I wish I could offer up something more than like just solidarity and platitudes. But if I ever get around to getting the Botox or some type of hearing device, I'll make an update on that. Probably my last video on this subject for a while. But take care.